So, is it a problem if I actually kind of like Velma? Hey everyone, this is Kevin T. Rodriguez, film critic of iCritic.net, and let's do another video about Velma. Yep, you've seen tons of these on the internet. Velma is just the internet's favorite punching bag, so much to the point that it's wildly successful, and we're probably going to get a season 2. It's one of the only shows I can think of where everyone is almost in universal agreement that this is not a very good show, and yet everyone's universal agreement that it's terrible has caused everyone to universally watch a lot of it. Therefore, we are going to almost certainly get a season 2. It's kind of like everybody telling everyone to watch The Last of Us because it's great, except it's in reverse or something to that effect. So here's the thing. I really don't think that if you dislike Velma, there's anything more to say. The problems are well documented. I have some of the same issues with the show that many of you do. I'm just in the minority in that I actually don't think the show is quite as bad as people say it is. And in fact, dare I say it, I think it's even getting better when you look at it a little differently than how most people are looking at it. So to kind of begin with where I'm coming from, if you are looking at this as a Scooby-Doo show and a Scooby-Doo reboot or a new interpretation of Scooby-Doo, then Velma has a whole horde of problems. This show is frankly not Scooby-Doo, in the same way that Riverdale is not based really on the Archie comics. Yeah, the characters are named after the characters that you've known for years. Some of them even look the same, but they don't act the same, not even close. And in both Velma and Riverdale's case, if you are looking at it as an adaptation of Scooby-Doo or you are looking at an adaptation of Archie and Friends, then there is no way to be anything but disappointed in these reboots. Now, that said, Riverdale is an incredibly entertaining show if you take it as its own thing. Like, yeah, they took this really squeaky clean thing that was made for kids. They made it really adult. But if you kind of just look at Riverdale as like an original creation that bears just a passing resemblance to something that came before, then it's actually quite entertaining. It's got fun mysteries, the characters have good chemistry, it's ridiculous in all the right ways, and it takes itself just seriously enough for this kind of show without it actually going way overboard into cheesiness. And even when it becomes cheesy, it's just cheesy enough. And I kind of feel that's what Velma is. It's not Scooby-Doo. It's not even Velma Dinklage, and it's not Fred, and it's not Daphne. They bear passing resemblances to the original characters, and they share their names, but for the most part, they aren't the same characters. And when you divorce this show from the old characters, then Velma actually has quite a few positive things going for it. One of the first positive things is that, well, it's a good-looking show. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it might be needlessly graphic, and maybe they went a little overboard sexualizing the teenage girls in the first episode, but otherwise, the animation is really smooth. It's really solid. I actually like the animation. I think this is a very well-looking show. It's kind of what you would hope a modern adult animated series would be. I also, dare I say it, kind of like some of the characters. Now look, I know that they're all jerks and they're in some ways all unlikable, but the thing is, some of the best comedy shows like The Office are shows with unlikable jerks that you somehow like. And I'm kind of in that boat. I kind of like Daphne. I think she's got an interesting dual personality almost, of like she puts on this show for her friends and the school, but at home she's a little bit more reserved, she's smarter, she's kind of using, she's basically going along with the clique because she wants to be popular in school, but at home she's kind of a different person. I kind of like that. Norville, or Norman, whatever his name is, the Shaggy equivalent here, he's kind of an interesting character. Like, he's basically someone who has a defined personality. He's nice, he's helpful, he cares for people, and yet you have people that surround him that basically tell him what he should and should not be doing as he lives his life. And that's kind of interesting in today's day and age, where you have people of certain ethnicities who act a certain way towards people, and then you have other people saying, like, as this sort of person, should you be treating people that way? Maybe you need to do this instead. And I thought that was actually kind of an interesting dynamic. And like, so I like the Shaggy in this one. And I even like Fred to a certain extent, because yeah, he's just an idiot. I don't know how you can't not find him funny. The one character that is probably unlikable in all the wrong ways, of course, is Velma herself. Velma is very self-centered. She's very selfish. She does everything for herself, and she seems to use and abuse everyone. And the worst part is she's not even that funny, which is really strange, because Mindy Kaling is a very funny person. I mean, she was in The Office. She was in 5 Year Engagement. She was in that sitcom. She has done really funny and memorable things. There was that Emma Thompson movie she was with. She was really good in that movie. And I think one of the issues with Mindy Kaling is that she has increasingly shown herself to be very insecure. And that's where Velma does have some wildly obvious problems, if you know what I mean. So a lot has been made about the race swapping and the fact that the Velma character basically is making fun of straight white men, and that basically she saw like the comments of the trolls coming a mile away, and therefore she decided to preemptively make fun of the trolls before the show even came out, so that, hey, guess what? We can say this. Now, people have conspiracy theories about why they would do this, that this is a marketing gimmick, that they're basically trying to justify that this show was terrible, and thus if they make those complaints early on, then they can say, see, we saw this coming, our show really isn't terrible, it's just the people who are doing that, we called it. I don't want to get into all of that. I think there's some valid points in all those arguments and some not so valid points, but really, if I'm looking at this at face value, and I'm kind of looking at what Velma is saying, because Velma has now essentially become Mindy Kaling. She's speaking for her co-creator. I almost think Mindy is feeling a little, how should I put this? She's feeling a little vulnerable, and maybe she's a little timid, and maybe she's insecure. Like, I think Mindy is a talented enough writer, a funny enough actress that, you know what, she could come in and she can write something really funny. She could make Velma her own character, and she could make this new Velma show, like, yeah, it's not Scooby-Doo and you shouldn't compare it to Scooby-Doo, but she could make this Velma her own thing, and I think it would be successful. But I think she is so insecure about herself that she writes the complaints that in the show. She writes these slams against other people. And unfortunately, she probably has experienced a fair amount of bullying and racism. And so she is writing what she knows. She's probably not been treated well in this industry. And as someone who featured some, well, not featured, but faced some online bullying with a much more popular channel a few years ago, And that was just in like a few hundred people that really hated me. I can't imagine tens of thousands of people hating me for this reason or that. It's hard to walk away and just brush these things off. And so I think she's writing about her insecurities, she's writing about her experiences. And I think the sad thing about it is that I don't see her as being selfish or being woke or being anything. I think she has been, you know, bullied and mistreated to the extent that this is how she's going to portray herself in Velma. And I just don't think it's necessary. The Velma character in this show, she is the only character who is insecure and scared, and she has really no reason to be other than other people seem to hate her for no reason, except she makes it difficult. It's a very complicated thing, but I bet you that if Mindy had basically ignored the trolls and she had basically said, you know what, I could make fun of the people who are going to hate the show, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to write a great character. I'm just going to write a great show. I think a lot of these problems would have not been the big deal that they were. Hey there, this is Future Kevin adding a point in that I wanted to make the first time that I did not manage to make a point about. So it should be noted that in the Scoob movie, Velma was made a Latino character because Gina Rodriguez was the voice of the character. And I do not recall anyone getting upset about that, which means I do have to point out that while there are racists out there and while there are people who are definitely closed-minded, I think what people are definitely taking more issue with is the calling out that if you don't like the race swap or if you don't like the show, you are a racist, when Velma has had a race swap before and basically nobody cared. So I just want to throw that out there. If you're going to race swap, just do it, but don't make this claim that, hey, if you don't like it, the person is clearly a closeted racist, because I think they have more of an issue with you calling them out and using what is pretty much a pretty lowbrow way to make people feel guilted into liking your product than anything. So back to the video. And I also want to say that, yes, the first couple episodes are not especially good. This show gets off at a very, very rough start. But I have to admit, as we get into the 6th, 7th, and 8th episode, and we're starting to see some of the character arcs unfold, and the characters are starting to interact more with each other, I mean, again, they are not acting like the Scooby-Doo gang. That said, they are acting unique. They definitely have personalities, and they are starting to have unique little quirks and cliques with one another, and that, I think, is actually working. So I like the fact that the characters are starting to click in their own unique way. I love the animation. I like that the mystery is actually kind of getting interesting, if I'm being perfectly honest. And I don't think this show is doomed to be terrible forever. Velma actually seems to me to have potential to be genuinely good at some point. I don't know when that would be. Would it be the 2nd season? Would it have to take for the 3rd season? I don't know, but there are things in here that I actually do like. So, unlike most people, I'm not hoping for it to get canceled. I'm not hoping for it to get burned to the ground. I actually want them to take these criticisms to heart, because some of them are legit. You can't be insulting your viewers. It seems really strange to be making a joke that 420 is code for adults who watch cartoons, while you are a cartoon that is for adults, and kids should not watch this.
You know what 420 is, right?
Yeah, it's code for adults who still watch cartoons.
Oh, come on!
You know what? If you have a little less cynicism for your audience, if you basically try to make this its own thing as much as you can, and if you make the characters just a little bit more likable, at least with each other, like you give us a reason to really root for them, then I think Velma could be genuinely good at some point in the future. It's not a good show now, I'm not going to deny that, but it has some potential. I see nuggets of greatness, and I might be one of the only ones, I don't know, but I definitely think that Velma is not something to write off just quite yet. And even if people are watching it to hate watch it right now, I'm kind of glad for the most part because that means the show is going to get renewed. And if it gets renewed and renewed again, I think it will improve. And Mindy, if you ever watch this, and you probably won't, but if you ever watch this and you ask my opinion what I would change about the show, I would just make Velma a less insecure character. Now, thankfully, the first season, because of the whole storyline with the mom leaving and everything, that's kind of built in there to make Velma feel insecure. But once you close that arc, basically let Velma be confident in who she is. She doesn't have to be threatened by the white guy. She doesn't have to be threatened by men. She doesn't have to be threatened by the establishment. She can take on the establishment. She looks at the people that try to tear her down and she laughs. She snarks at them. It's like, hey, I don't care about you. I am a good person. I am a funny person. I am smart. I am inquisitive. Make Velma confident, because that was always one of the things that was so nice better in the original show. And that's something you can carry over without, make carbon copying it. You can make this your own thing. Like, hey, I am a confident, funny, capable woman. And I have friends and I have talent and I'm going to use them and I'm going to solve mysteries and I'm going to do great things for my community. So I think once Velma stops worrying about how other people are holding her down and she decides to just go out there and get what she wants, I think she's going to become a much more likable character. But that said, this is a deeply polarizing show. A lot of people don't like it. Are you one of those people, or are you one of those people who kind of agree with me? You think this isn't that bad? Still bad, but maybe not that bad at the end of the day. I would love to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. And as always, blame responsibly. Have a good one.